far as it goes. I remember.
A virtual killing machine.
Kill confirmed.
Race is
Love you.
It's difficult, isn't it?
Hello everybody, it is August 11th, 2011. James Rink here. Welcome to another edition of Super Soldier Talk. For those who don't know, a super soldier is a genetically modified superhuman that has been subjected to Mark Ultra programming and used in ultra top secret military and combat operations. I'm a Gem 5 super soldier, but I don't have all the pieces of this puzzle together, so it is my hope that this show will help myself and others network with each other so that we can put together what has gone on in our lives. Today I have a special guest by the name of Aron, and Aron, we both believe you've been used in milab operations. A milab stands for military abductions. Aron has memories of missions involving retrievals of crashed UFOs, perhaps being involved in Illuminati rituals and assassination missions while under the influence of mind control. Aron is 26 and lives in Alberta, Canada. Aron, welcome to the show. Can you please tell viewers a little bit about yourself?
Well, like you said, I'm 26 years old. I was born in Canada.
Okay.
My knowledge. Over the last few years, I've been getting these various memories coming back through meditations. Sometimes while I sleep, I'll have these vivid recalls. They seem to just usually be triggered through meditation mostly, though. I find that normally I would believe myself to be a normal person. Everything else about me is normal. Mentally, I'm very logical. My friends say I have a very level head. For me, it seems odd that I've often come across these memories, but they've been confirmed to me through various people, such as e-programmers, channelers, sometimes mediums.
Okay.
It's been an interesting trip so far.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's more like a process of self-awakening.
Yes, to an extent, yes, you're very right.
Okay.
That would be a good way to put it.
Well, let's go back to, the very beginning, and tell me a little bit about your parents. Do you feel like you've ever been adopted?
It's funny that you mention that, because when I was young, I would say probably 6 to 7 years old, I was quite convinced at that time that those were not my parents, that I belonged to somebody else. I would blame the childish talk. As I got older, I did, like I mentioned to you before, I seemed to recover some memories that I was born, they referred to as into the occult or the Illuminati, and that the mother that I was born to, I would never remember when I was young, but as I got older, I would begin to remember who she was. So it appears that my background is not as I had originally recalled it. I was not actually born into the family I live with now, but that's still somewhat very foggy, so I'm not 100% certain.
Okay. Well, do you have memories before, I guess, I don't know, whenever you think that, whenever the age was that you started having, you felt like you were put in a new family? Do you have memories?
When I was young, like I said, around 6 to 8 years old, and I was convinced that the family I was with was not my family. I didn't have any other memories as a child besides the ones that were put into me. What it appeared as when people talked to me when I was in my teens, they asked me, how did I know my earliest childhood memories so clearly and so vividly? And back then I would simply tell them, I said, well, it's fresh in my head as if it just happened yesterday. So I, at that point, never understood any about programming, and I was a very devout Christian, and I believed myself to be very normal. So the fact that I thought when I was young, thought that those were not my parents, I just, like I said, I threw that off, and I said, that's just being like, a silly child, and of course they're my parents. But
okay.
Here that I don't actually have any memories as a child remembering being with another person that would have been my mother.
All right. And I wanted to mention something. Now, I know this was maybe purely speculation, but James Casbolt, who's also been involved in all this stuff, he's actually mentioned that he grew up in Alberta, Canada, in some underground facility. Have you researched that at all? Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Actually, yeah, Alberta's a bit of a strange place. It does have very close ties to the States in some regards, mostly just economical. But As to there being bases, it's very possible from my experiences. Though BC does have bases as well. From what I've experienced, and there's even houses like mansions and places that seem to be used.
Okay.
But as to the name of the base of the places where they exist, it's hard to say.
All right. So you don't have any memories of actually being in a base as a young child or anything?
Not in Canada.
Okay.
No, not in Canada.
All right. And maybe later on you can talk about some of that. But let's talk a little bit about yourself. Do you have any health issues related to what the programming that you've experienced? And when I say that, okay, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you would call them health issues caused by programming, but I do have, I guess you could say, health issues, whether they're caused just by natural causes or if they are stemming from programming, it's uncertain. I mentioned to you that I had, I've always grown up, I've had a hard time hearing. I don't always hear things very well. I was born with asthma, severe asthma. I seem to have an unknown, a heart problem of sorts, as well as, when I got older, I've gotten sinusitis, which became a great surprise to my doctors, who said that was not possible. Various other different oddities, but I think mostly some of that stuff was more so inflicted because of my own childhood upbringing. And, as kids, you don't do the smartest things, and sometimes you learn the hard way. And
okay.
Things happen.
And I wanted to just make a comment here is that, a lot of people, at least, first of all, back up. Do you feel that you might be a star seed? Like a hybrid?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I did come across a gentleman who gave me a list of characteristics and said if I had an X amount of these characteristics, it's very likely that I was. And of course, I matched a lot of the characteristics, and he did a channeling for me, and it became very clear from the channeling beings that he brought through that I was very much in close ties to what they refer to as the Galactic Federation, but a very specific aspect of that. So that was very fascinating to me, and it helped me understand, because I had memories of being on board ships before coming to this Earth, and I guess they came back to remind me of why I was here. So it's very fascinating. I've just been trying to put the pieces together.
Okay.
Through all the things I went through here on this Earth, and then what point does it bring as it ties it together on a higher level.
Okay. And the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of starseeds and hybrids do have a lot of health problems. And the reason why is because their DNA has been spliced with many different races that they're almost like a huge, they're a mix of everything, and sometimes there could be some genetic errors with how the DNA crosses, and then you get sometimes they have a lot of health problems. And I don't know if that's what's happened to you. I mean, maybe you're totally different, but do you ever suffer from any kind of did you ever get any missing time, or do you ever get any needle marks, unexplainable needle marks, or cuts?
When I was younger, when I was in my mid to late teens, I noticed a lot of strange marks. But I threw it off as being a kid. When you're playing, you never know, you could have bumped something accidentally or got bitten by a bug. So I don't know. I can't say for certain that
okay.
Needle marks. But I've had some unexplained bruising in places and some odd marks that shouldn't be there.
Okay. Well, when you say you had some strange marks, I mean, strange in what way?
Well, for instance, bruising up underneath the arms that are quite severe, as if, how would I possibly have gotten bruising up there unless I'd physically have to remember doing something, falling or bumping into something underneath my arms, and I didn't remember doing that within the last week. And all of a sudden it appeared one morning, and I profoundly noticed it. It was pretty hard to miss, and within maybe a day and a half it was gone. And it was bruising, black and blue, it was ridiculous.
Wow, well, it sounds like you could be getting into a scuffle or a fight somewhere.
Well, yeah, I think there have been a few of those from, just recently. There might have been some of that sort of thing. I'm not sure. Yeah, something's happened, and I must not have fared too well.
All right. Well, and do you have any kind of sleep problems? Because I know you mentioned you've had a lot of really interesting dreams. But overall, what is your... Okay, why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. Well, one of some of those things that are most odd, especially going up, is it's very consistent. I have to be in bed before midnight. If I try to stay up past midnight, I become profoundly sick. I don't know why. I've worked at jobs where they tried to get me to stay up on a night shift, and I cannot do it for the life of me. So I seem to have to be in bed before midnight.
Okay.
So like 11 o'clock, I'm out. Usually, I find I sometimes will wake up at anywhere from 4:35, depending on what time I have to go to work. And I'm more tired when I get up at that point in time than when I went to bed. Normally, if I have a day off and it happens to me, I will sleep for the next 2 hours, and I'll sleep like unreal. Like, it's really good. I seem to get the next couple hours is amazing, but most of the night it just seems like I never slept at all.
Yeah, I get that feeling too. I wake up in the morning more tired than I am at night, and it takes a long time for me to just kind of shake it off.
Yeah.
Do you ever get like a really drugged feeling when you wake up in the morning?
I don't know. I can't say that I get that sort of feelings. More so usually once I get up and I'm usually straight off to work and I don't have time to think about anything else. So I don't
Okay.
pay attention to that. And on my days off, like I said, I usually get, when I wake up at like 4:30 or 5 or maybe a little later, I'll sleep in until like 8:39, and usually with a few hours of really good sleep.
All right. Well, what about your psychic gifts? Do you have any gifts that which you would describe as being psychic, or any kind of intuition or abilities?
Anything that I have nowadays, like I might have told you before, I came across that I was programmed through my intuition, like tapping it, so to speak, but I never trusted. So anything that I might still have left within this front altar as a so-called psychic ability, I'm very distrusting of anything that comes within me. So even seeing stuff in meditations, I'm still hesitant of everything I see, whether that's just because I was taught to be that way or what the case is, I'm not too sure. Most of my abilities, like I mentioned, were when I was younger. That's to recall all of that sort of stuff. But now I can't do it like I can when I was young, nor can I do it like I do when I see myself in altar. I don't seem to have the same abilities within my waking altar.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that you felt like your name might have been a Robert Wilderman. I hope if I said that right.
That's a bit strange.
Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? Because I know you just earlier you mentioned that you felt like your parents were your own parents. Do you think perhaps you might be like maybe were inserted into that family?
Yes, it's possible. Like I said, I've had to come across the memory of being in a facility which appears to be in somewhere in the States. But it might be that we were switched at that point. Though there has been mention, like I said, I've seen that name in a meditation, and it appears that it's supposed to be my original name, so to speak. Though I've had somebody call me by the first name, and I've had a similar to like a numerology report done on that name, and that name suits me extremely well. Unlike, I've had a numerology report done on the name of Aron Lammer, which is the name I have, and that name does not, like, the report comes back, and there's a lot of things that don't actually line up with me as what I am, so I find it quite odd how the other name suits me much better on a numerology level than the first name. So,
Okay.
I'm not sure, like I said, that could be a name of their own, too, that.
Have you ever had any psychic readings done on perhaps, or maybe even hypnosis or something to tie it all together, or is it just mostly just dream and meditations?
Like I said, mostly dreams and meditations, though I had a channeling done on program, like I really wanted to find out. And they actually, with the channelers that I've talked to beforehand, like when they did come through, they actually told me a lot about this, warned me, but I wasn't aware of it, so I wasn't able to put the pieces together until after I became aware of it. I was actually programmed and became aware of the whole scenario. So when I talked to them again, I asked them about all these different things, and they explained why I was going through it. Ultimately, I agreed to this long before, so I mean, it's just part of what I got to go through.
Okay.
What I do with these experiences, I guess, that will define who I really am. So.
All right. Now, you said that you have, in your process of self-awakening, you've actually contacted various, channelers and even Stuart Swerdlow. Would you want to talk a little bit about like what you've learned from that?
Well, Stuart was a big part of actually convincing, like, pretty much confirming to me that I was programmed. And to an extent, though, there's possibly other things tied. I'm not sure what's all there. But he was very much a big part of, I guess, really awakening me to that, what was in me, which was just reconfirming what I had tapped to my intuition when I was younger, that I was in Project Monarch and whatnot. So, as to the other channelers, like I said, that one channeler I talked to, they both times I talked to that channeler, the information that came through was extremely profound about what I was involved with. And a lot of it had to do with being involved in the various programs and being involved with certain groups.
Okay.
As well as other individuals I found in my past. So that's
All right.
interesting how that all.
Okay, when you say you've been programmed, why don't you tell others what that means to you?
Well, being programmed is essentially, I guess my own perception of it is I'd always say that humans are nothing like the physical body is nothing more like a computer, that just like any computer that has a hard drive and ability to store memories, that each of those things can be compartmentalized, whether you use a partition or whatever the case is, and kept the information separate. So in the case of us, that people have been programmed through various means. We have been programmed through like trauma-based mind control, whether it's being strapped to a chair and have probes put in your head and put electricity through you until whether it takes hours or it seems like it takes days, that you break.
Okay.
When you break, there's a new altar formed inside your mind, and then they insert information, and that altar seems to be separate from your conscious altar because you can't seem to recall what happened before or after that event. So that seems to be, to me, that's what the programming essentially boils down to. I'm sure there's so much more that adds into it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we could sit here for hours on how they program and all that. And I'd like to hear more about being with electrodes and all that in just a moment. But I just wanted to just let the listeners know that the way they actually program people is they use trauma. Like, for instance, they would stick a needle in the left eardrum and talk into the right. And it has to do with how the left and the right side of the brain deals with this kind of information. And there could be drugs involved. There could be virtual reality, goggles, masks, and you could be programmed and trained to do certain things, like maybe to remember certain codes, like have photographic memory. And if you don't follow the programming, if you don't have the photographic memory, you either one, you'll die, or B, you'll survive and you go on and you develop multiple personality dissociative identity disorder. And these altars will be like set up just as Aron has said, almost like compartments in your own mind where all the memories are stored. And the main personality may not even be totally aware of what the other parts in you have. So that's what makes this really kind of difficult and a puzzle, really, to piece it all together, because we don't really know what our other half is doing. Now, why don't you talk a little bit... Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying you could have thousands of altars and you just not one or two. Some, like, it appears that you can have hundreds of them in you, and they're each made for a very specific task, and they only know very specific things that are coming into an altar.
Yeah, I've heard that you can even like at most maybe even up to like 30,000. I don't even know how they could do that. I mean, geez, it must have gone some pretty horrific trauma. But
well, yeah.
Okay, so how did you find out about me and I guess this video series?
Well, I guess as I come to understand more about, like, the programming, and then Monarch was one of the more ones that became dominant. I've been looking for ways to try to undo it because I'm getting tired of the control and being manipulated and so on and so forth. I thought there's got to be a way to remove it, and of course working with Swergo through the various techniques that he has, I felt like I'd come to another wall and I needed to find more ways. So I started to research again, and that's how I stumbled upon your YouTube videos. And then I just felt drawn to actually send you a message, and now we're at this point.
Yeah, and I guess that's how it works. It's like one huge synchronicity, and
yeah,
and that's my maybe this should be on my grave. So, well, actually, I'm not going to have a gravestone. I don't plan on dying, but James believes that synchronicities is the universe's way of telling you are on the right path. So, if you
that's very true.
If you found this video through a synchronicity, that means that you're meant to hear it. Now, before we go on here, now I want you to start talking about some of your missions or just your I don't know how. I guess you said you gathered this through dreams and meditation, which is fine. So just go ahead and let's start by the FBI and the entity that you mentioned. Why don't you start there?
Yeah, this is really interesting because this was not so much a dream. Because what happened is one night I went to sleep, and this is after a certain incident that took place in my life where I might have unintentionally disrupted some of the programming. And then, like I said, I went to sleep. The next thing I do recall is becoming awake. And there was a gentleman that told me to get into a car, so I did. And then we both got in and we were driving. And for some reason I thought I was somewhere in the States. So a sign, like an image of a sign that said Virginia flashed through my mind at that point. So I take it I might have been somewhere in Virginia, though I'm not too sure because I was thinking potentially I was somewhere in California. The road seemed, had all the trees and stuff there, so it wasn't a desert or nothing. But we had gotten to maybe a town or a city, I don't know for sure. But we pulled outside of a hotel. The gentleman I was in the car told me to get outside of the car, go into the hotel, and look for a phone. That was the only instructions I was given. So I got out of the car, I went into the hotel, and I guess you could say at a point, I somewhat have ADD because I really enjoy history. And I noticed inside the hotel that it was beautifully decorated, and they have a lot of different architecture. And I was kind of wondering what influenced the architect to design the interior that way. But there was lots of people milling around. There was a desk, and there was 2 or 3 other tenants at the desk. And I heard a phone ring, and I didn't pay much attention because when you're in a hotel, phones ring quite often. But I turned around to see what the lady, she was saying, "Excuse me, sir." I thought, well, maybe she's talking to one of the people outside me. But she was actually talking to me, which I was surprised because I was thinking consciously that, I remember that was my waking life. I had not been waiting for a call besides except for one from a doctor. So I answered the phone thinking, well, it must be the doctor's call, but I wasn't fully conscious enough to realize what was happening. And there was a woman on the other end of the phone, and she just started off saying, "How's it going?" And she made small talk, and I was talking to her, and I asked her directly, I said, "Are you looking for an appointment?" And she seemed to get really solemn at this point.
Wait, hold on. Say that again.
Aaron, the FBI
what did she say?
And
what did she say?
She said the FBI is looking for you.
Okay.
And I was really shocked because I thought that's not possible. I'm in Canada.
Okay.
This can't happen. The FBI deals with internal affairs in the United States. I'm a Canadian citizen. This is not right. And then I just, out of the nowhere, I blurted something silly. I said, "Are we married?" And she just started crying. And I thought, what the heck's going on? What did I say? And I thought, at that point, I probably looked like a complete retard sitting here with a stupid look on my face, a phone at my ear, and I'm in a hotel, and there's all these people around. So I decided that I'll just throw this whole thing off and pretend it never happened. So I quickly blurted out something along the lines that it was great talking to her, and I would see her at a specific time, and I gave the phone back to the receptionist, said thank you very much. And the next thought that went through my head is I had to get out of there, so I thought the best thing to do was look natural and walk towards the door. So I turned around and took a step and a half, but I just couldn't resist. I decided to look over my right shoulder, and as I did, I noticed 2 individuals who were maybe in their late 20s, young men that were in kind of nice casual clothes that appeared to be looking quite frantically for someone. One of them caught my eye, and he started to walk towards me, and I didn't make it no more than 3 steps after where he intercepted me. And he used my full name, and he said, "Would you please help us?" And I said, "All right, well, how can I help you?" The next thing that I recall is that we were walking down what appeared to be a corridor in some sort of a building or someplace, somewhere, and we got into a room through a double set of doors. The room was very sparse. There was maybe 15, 20 folding chairs, and 3 folding tables, much like the cheap Rubbermaid tables you might buy at a Costco or something like that. There appeared to be like a water fountain station just at the door. There was nothing else in this room besides a window that was approximately 3 feet high by 8 feet long on a stone wall. All 3 of us walked over to that wall, and we peered through that window, and through that window looked like we were looking into a room that was approximately 30 feet by 30 feet by 30 feet. And it was very hazy in that room, and it appears that either the haze was almost an orange tint or there was lights in that room that gave it an orange tint, I couldn't tell. But it appeared that there was a bunch of rock-type structure inside, like a cobblestone. In the center of that room, there was a chair, a big, heavy wooden chair, and in that room, there was what appeared to be, I assumed at this point, a bald-headed man that had no shirt or nothing on, just sitting, I couldn't tell if he was strapped in a chair or sitting in a chair, I wasn't too sure. And I looked over at one of the agents, as it might have been. I don't know if he was actually FBI or not, but and I said, "What are you doing to him?" And he looked back at me and he says, "You mean it?" And I said, "It?" I said, "As an entity, it?" I was really shocked at this point and super confused. And I was thinking, well, what could would possibly they want me to do, and what's the entity. And at that point, I became so curious, I just popped up my body, like projected out to get a better conscious view of this thing, and I had gone down in to take a look, and I might have been lucky to get probably up to the side of this entity, as they refer to it as. And the next thing I recall, it's very hard to explain at this point because I'm consciously projected out my body. It's like being dominated, what this entity did. It felt like it overpowered me on every aspect and just kept pushing information in. And I tried to focus extremely hard to see what it was doing. I was trying to tell it to slow down because I couldn't see what was happening because there's so much information coming in. And all I could see was what looked like symbols. That's the best way to describe it. Possible letters. And I don't understand what they were. I just seen the stream.
Okay.
And I tried three times very hard to concentrate to see, because I thought maybe that's what they had wanted me to do. And at that point, I came back to, and I found myself in my bed.
Well, all right. So you said that you were like in this chair. So was there like a creature in the room with you, or were you like did you black out?
When we were in that room with the other two agents, when I was there, I projected out like consciously. I do this quite often when I see myself. It's like remote viewing, if you would, but on a very different level. It's like being able to imagine yourself where you want to be, and you're instantly there right then and there. Not physically there, but you're there, and you can be aware of everything. That's what I was doing. I was
almost like a form of bilocation, astral bilocation, like being in two places at the same time.
Yeah, I guess you could say that's possibly the case. I'm not sure what to call it. I just know that's what I do quite often.
Okay.
And like I said, they refer to it as an entity, though I wouldn't say it's a being. It looked extremely, like I would assume it's human. And what I think in a sense that if you look the word up, it just means that it's a very distinct and independent thing, a source or an existence. So it could be just a very powerful person, really, what they could refer to, I guess, in a sense.
Okay.
But whatever it was, its mental capabilities were far beyond anything I've ever seen, and it's possible that this entity, as I refer to it, has had some other impacts later on.
Okay. Why do you think Why do you think they brought you to see this entity? I mean, what was the point?
Well, I can't say for certain because, like you said, I just got a few memories. But if I had to take somewhat of a guess, I would assume that since what happened before this, you see, I was meditating. I just started, and I began to recover memories. And I think that because I was doing that, that was kind of like you didn't really like me doing that. So what the entity was doing was simply putting some sort of programming into me. Because after that point, I never meditated for over 8 months because every time I tried, I became so scared that I couldn't relax, couldn't do anything. I couldn't do it. So it's possible, but it's not certain that that's what they had done. It was for programming reasons.
Well, maybe perhaps, because, I mean, you've mentioned you've been in the trip chair. Maybe this might have been like a cover memory to maybe like kind of program you to not meditate anymore and recover any more memories.
That's very possible. You're right, too, yes. A lot of cover memories, and I have seen that before. Like, you're very right, that's possible.
Okay.
It was very real, like, which I guess when you're in that chair, though, I mean, I've seen things like, you can't separate realities when you're there, but it was pretty interesting. I'm not sure. You're very right. It could be a cover memory. That individual or whatever being or entity or whatever referred to as, it very well could.
Well, why don't you talk a little bit about the chair itself? Because, I mean, I've seen myself in the trip chair, and I'm just wondering, is that the same thing that you've been placed into?
Well, there's two, like, I understand what you guys are saying when you say a trip chair. Like, I've only seen this once, maybe twice. And the one time I seen a trip chair is I fell out of an altar once. Now, I don't know if they were working on programming and seeing if I would fall out of altar, but I did once, and that was a big no-no. The only thing I recall at that point is two guys in black suits with guns came and grabbed me when I fell out of altar and drugged me off to what looked like a dentist chair, and they threw me into this dentist chair. There was two people in lab coats, and they looked like they were working on like a wall that had buttons and like screens and all sorts of things, and the chair looked like a dentist chair. One of them came over and placed what looked like silver, like about the size of a quarter, you could say, on each side of one on each temple of my mind. And then at that point, I tripped out into the most horrific thing I've ever saw of human beings, the most severe torture of a human I've ever seen in my life. And there was a very clear message to me that, I do that again, and then I would be...
What kind of torture?
I don't know why they do this, but I'm wondering if they play upon the worst fears that you have within you. And what I mean by that is, my fear very well could be, and I might not be aware of this, is that I could be forced to watch something that I can have no part in helping. Like, I can't protect that person. I can't help them. I'm forced just to be somebody has to view that. And what I mean by torture, I mean by somebody being so badly, severely beaten that their arms and body is just like the flesh. It looks like ground beef, and their bones are just crushed to the point of splinters.
Okay.
Like I said, I don't watch movies like horror movies. I don't even watch television. I stay away from all that because there's things inside when you watch certain movies that you find yourself extremely tense, and you're trying to control something inside you. You don't know what it is. So I just stay away from all that, and I can't stand watching somebody being tortured. And they seem to know that, and they play on that quite often.
Yeah. My friend, he had a memory of being in the trip chair. He said that he saw himself almost like an amusement park ride, where they have this ride where you're spinning around on some kind of kaleidoscope kind of machine. And he remembers that there was barbed wire, and every time he was spinning around, the barbed wire would just grab his flesh and just constantly would tear at it over and over. And that would be the kind of torture that they would put us through. And again, this is like virtual reality programming. So when they put us in the chair, they got the electrodes, and they put a goggles or visor over. Do you remember if it was like a visor, or is it just you just black out?
No, like I said, when they put me in the chair, one of the techs, or whatever you want to call them, the civilians there, actually got what looked like two silver dollar type little devices and put one on each side of my temple. So as soon as the second one was put in place, I just blacked out. Okay. And I've seen this image played over. And it's an image you can't close your eyes, you can't turn your head. It's right inside your mind. You can't stop looking at it. You're forced to watch it play out to the end.
Okay. All right. And at that point, you black out. Do you ever remember waking up on any missions? Because I know one person, he said that he actually came out of a trance. Well, I should say that we go into an altered personality when we're sent on missions, and then for whatever reason he broke out of his alter, and then they tried to put him back into alter. Did anything like that ever happen to you?
Unfortunately, yes. Now I don't know how or why. I don't know if I should mention what was behind this, what the event was. This event deals with things that have to do with what I refer to as the family.
Okay.
A group of people who don't seem to care about anything in this world. There's no government. There's nothing that they can't touch.
All right.
There's no group they can't get to. There's nothing. They just seem to be everywhere and anywhere. And they see, like I said, they touch into everything. And what happened is I guess I can tell it. I came to one night, what I appeared as walking beside an individual. I'm going to refer to this individual. She's a young woman. Her name, I'm going to refer to her as Anne. Though this is not her name, I'm just going to use this for reference only. There was another older woman beside her, and I'm going to refer to her as Mom, and again, this is only for reference. There would appear to be 4 to 6 men who were dressed in suits. And we were all walking down, what looked like inside of a hotel, like a hallway. There's doors on the side with numbers on them. The only thing that I could recall at that point is that I had to go and get a shower because I had to do something that night, but I didn't understand what I was supposed to do. And I was really kind of confused because I was torn between something inside me telling me what I had to do, and I had something else that seemed like it was pushing against that, so it was like being split inside the altar. So we go through the doors. I see that there was a shower and a bedroom off to one side, so I go through there. All of a sudden I hear Mom say, she said, so-and-so wants you, and I thought, well, okay. So I went back through the door that came through into what was the foyer, where there was the 4 of the bodyguards, or whatever they want to be referred to as. And then Mom was coming out of the other bedroom where Anne was. I passed her. She seemed rather, almost kind of annoyed, is one way to put it. I get into the room where Anne was. She appeared to be taking off her robe and was getting in the shower. She turned around to me and said, so-and-so, why don't you get in the shower? And at this point, something went through my mind, and it was that she's programmed. And this individual that they mentioned is a very famous individual. I wouldn't believe it until I had seen it that night. what happened is, I then asked, this is stupid, but I asked her at that time, because I understood that she was programmed, and for some reason I thought I had to get her away from there, so I looked at her, I said, well, would you like to go for a hike tomorrow? And she looked at me really kind of funny, gave me a kind of funny smile. She's like, okay. She said, but as long as I don't have to wear a heavy backpack. And I kind of chuckled. I said, no. I said, we're just going to go for a walk. I said, we need to talk. She says, yeah, sure. And she's kind of looking out over the shower there in towards the room where Mom had gone. And Mom is kind of, she's halfway going to sit down, but she has the most confused look on her face I've ever seen anybody have. And at this point, I'm incredibly confused because I really have no idea what's going on. I don't know what to do. And all of a sudden, Mom looked like somebody turned a light bulb on in her head, and she realized what was wrong. And she just bolted towards me with the biggest set of eyes I've ever seen. And next thing, I just blacked out. I would later come to, through another meditation of sorts, find out what happened, and it was very clear I fell out of altar, and that's why she was so confused, is that I was acting unnormal for my altar, and especially with the conversation I was having with that individual.
Why were you two together at that time? Do you have any idea why they brought you together?
This has to do with rituals. There's something to do with what rituals can do and the power they can use to manipulate humanity's greater consciousness for some reason. I'm not sure 100%. It was either to do with a manipulation of humanity or it had to do with something else they were trying to do to me, or they were trying to do to her. Either which way, as a monarch that's used in sexual rituals, we tend to be in very small groups, sometimes one-on-ones, or we're put together with maybe up to, at most, I've ever seen 20 other monarchs, and only monarchs are allowed to be in that area when the rituals take place. No one else in those rooms, and usually when it happens, everybody else is made to leave the rooms.
Well, hold on a second.
In those rooms,
Hold on. When you say rooms, what do you mean by rooms? Are you in like some kind of facility?
no, they're like, they could be anywhere. They can be in very fancy houses. They can be in caves. They can be at old ruins. It could be any odd place. I don't know how they choose them, where they come up with this, or if what I see is even actually what I'm seeing, or if it's, like you said, an overlapped memory. I don't understand the purpose. Maybe it has to do with grid lines within the earth, sacred spots. I don't know.
Okay. And do you remember the names of any of these famous people?
Actually, when I was young, and I used to see this when I was little, like when I was in my teens, I'd see this, I would swear up and down I knew some of these individuals that were, at that time, who they were. So the most, I guess you could say, vivid recollection that I had appears when I seemed to have fallen out of my altar. And what I recall seeing was that there was a young woman that was about my age beside me, who I'm going to refer to as Anne just for the sake of reference only. There was an older woman beside her who I will refer to as Mom, and again, just for reference sake only. There appears to be anywhere from 4 to 6 men in suits that were like bodyguards. They seemed to be always looking around and whatnot. We were walking down a hallway that appeared to be in a hotel of some sort, very kind of a fancier hotel. We came to a set of doors which we had gone through. It entered into a foyer. What I recall is that I was supposed to be doing something that night, but I wasn't sure what. But I had to go have a shower, and I had noticed to my left there was a shower as I got into the foyer with a room, so I went into the room where the shower was. And I was just about ready to get into the shower when Mom yelled to me that this lady's name, who at first I said there's no way that could be right. So I got out of that room, went through the foyer, into this individual's room as referred to as Anne. As I went into the room, Mom was just coming out, and Anne was just taking off her robe and getting into the shower. Anne turns around and looks at me and says my name and says, get into the shower. She was kind of confused as why I wasn't doing it. At that point, the words came to my head that she was programmed. I don't know why that's still the case, but so I thought, well, I had to get her away from them in order to talk to her about that, I guess. I wasn't sure why. But I asked her something rather kind of strange. I said, would you like to go for a hike or a walk tomorrow with me? And she looked at me kind of funny, and she kind of gave me a weird smile. She said, sure. She said, as long as I don't have to wear a heavy backpack. And I chuckled. I said, no worries there. I said, we're just going to go for a walk. I said, nothing crazy, nothing like that. So she said, all right. She was looking really confused at me at this point. I'm pretty confused myself. I look over to the left outside door into the foyer where Mom was kind of halfway going to sit down, but she seemed to be paused in midair. And she had the most confused look I've ever seen on an individual in my life. At this point, I was very confused. I didn't know where I was, what was going on, and what was happening. And she then actually walked straight towards me right quite quickly, and that's the only thing I remember. I just blacked out after that. Later came to realize through another meditation that she was putting me back into an altar that I had fallen out of the altar, and that's why they would look so confused at me, because I wasn't acting like I was supposed to.
Oh, and were you actually out of your altar when all that was going on? You were just play acting?
Well, no, I was, and I guess you could say a limited conscious altar, that my front altar seems to be able to have access to that memory, though they seem to try to alter it slightly, but they weren't able to. So I don't know how much of that events were accurate, but it was quite odd. Like, I think normally they will erase from your mind the names and things that are used, so you're never consciously aware. But events that are this powerful, when you go into a ritual with another person, whether it's a sexual ritual, whatever the case is, it seems like the events sometimes can be so profound, and the energies that are at work are so powerful that it affects all the altars within you, and it leaks out to all of them, and you get kind of scattered memories sometimes of something that happened, but it's very, very, very fuzzy and unclear. It's like it's bleeding through everything. So it's kind of odd, but that's the way it seems to work.
Okay. And what about that time when you told that lady that you wanted to go hiking? Like, you were I guess you were paired up with her in this facility or wherever you were. And
it was in a fancy hotel. Like, it was one of the most richest hotel rooms I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything that fancy. I didn't think something like that could exist. It was a very big, luscious hotel room.
Right.
We're talking like 9-foot, 10-foot ceilings, like real tall ceilings, just gorgeous place. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Okay.
So I don't know where we were. I had an odd feeling for some reason. Paris, France came to my mind, but I don't know why I thought that. But
okay,
it's very strange. I've never that's probably one of the most interesting memories I've.
Well, do you have any other?
Something seemed like a. Sorry.
Well, do you have any other memories of being involved in any kind of sexual rituals that you would feel comfortable talking about on the?
Like that will take us into a lot of dark places. I guess I could try to keep it to a limited description. Through whether this memory, I do not know where it has come from. Whether it seems like I was listening to a few other individuals who were along the same lines of what happened to myself, and when they described that happened in some places they were at in rituals, I have a recollection of being possibly in a similar ritual where this was like in a cave of some sort. It was in a rock structure, but there was nothing but fire around us, like somebody lit torches and made a couple bonfires. And there was a number of us, I don't know how many was possibly there. There might have been 15 to 20 male and females that were all without clothes. They were all lined up against the wall. And there seemed to be, that's the way I can describe it, what looked like reptilian-type beings, and some of them wore robes. And they were bent over a child that was on a stone altar, and they were screaming, and she was screaming like I've never heard a child scream like this in my life. And I remember quite vividly thinking that there is no way anybody should ever be forced to die in such a horrid manner. And I thought, well, what I was going to do is I would reach out mentally, just project again, and try to calm that child mentally. So at least when she was killed, at least she'd die in some peace. I expected that on my body, so to speak. And I went to go into her mind to try to calm her, and one of them reptilian-type beings shot a very glaring look at me when I tried that, as if it was very much aware of what I did. I quickly shot back into my body, and I didn't dare do anything after that, and that's all I remember.
Wow.
That would be one of the weird things that I've come across.
Okay.
There seems to be more than one reptilian group, but I'm not too sure how it all works.
Well, have you had many different experiences with reptilian beings? Is that just one, or any others you remember?
One that two or three possibly. I don't understand. Some of them, like I said, some of them seem like they're very much mentally evolved or very spiritually de-evolved. They're very unbalanced. Yet other groups seem to be extremely mentally evolved and extremely spiritually evolved, so they're very much aware of things that happen.
You mean the other groups of reptilians?
Other reptilians, yes, they look very different from each other. There's some that, like the ones that were in that cave that were very unbalanced type, they seem to have like a very long, almost like a dinosaur. I hate to use that word, but really that's kind of what it reminded me. You know, long, elongated face, you know, like horns on their head, their larger, like canine teeth in their face. It's just, they're quite gross. Yet other ones that seem more evolved and intelligent are more humanoid looking, very fine features, very fine nostrils, fine lips. You know, they have more of a rounded face, look very different, and they don't seem to be of this world. Orion is something that keeps coming up over and over, and I don't know why.
Orion.
There's a mark on my arm.
Orion Nebula.
Is of Orion, and
yeah.
Be a connection to something like that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's why don't you talk a little bit about this mission that you did in the Middle East or Africa? Was it with a super soldier that you met?
Okay, this is quite interesting. This is probably one of the first things I've seen in meditation. I meditated before I went to bed, and when I woke up around 12, and I was so shocked at what I saw at that point, I went back to bed, and I thought, well, that was just unbelievable. And what I seen was there was two older people, older men. One was maybe his late 40s. He had like white hair, white silver hair, cut in a brush cut style, and he was in like a military uniform. There was another gentleman, similar looks, except for he had black hair. He was maybe in his late 30s. He was also in a military uniform. There was another woman there who had black hair. She's a familiar person who I don't have any direct contact with, but I've seen her in a few other places. She was there almost, I don't know her role, maybe she was a remote viewer, I'm not too sure. And then of course myself. It appears we were in some sort of a jungle area, although it's hard to say. I wasn't paying attention too much to the area. But what I remember is they had went one direction from where we were dropped off, or whatever happened, how we were there, I'm not sure. I went another direction, the opposite direction. I actually got to where there's a tree, and I put my back against a tree, and I projected out of my body with the intention of trying to locate what we were sent to locate. Now, what I remember seeing as I got on my body, I went to my left, and from there, I had noticed there was a river. The river very dirty, and then across the river, there was a building that was kind of sunken into the ground, so that half of it was above the ground, half of it was below the ground, and there was no windows in it, but yet all the openings in the building were open to atmosphere, so you could see directly outside and whatnot. It seemed very hot because inside the building there was poor lighting. There was a chair with a man in that chair who had like dark blonde hair. He had like stubble on his face, like he hadn't shaved in a few days. His clothes were dirty and kind of torn and not very good shape, but he appeared to be strapped in a chair. There was a man to his left in front of him who had like a more of a casual dress shirt on and khaki pants. There was a man directly to his left who was an African-looking gentleman who had more, not as good clothes as the gentleman that was dressed in khaki pants and nice shirt. There was a man behind the man that was in the chair. I don't know. I didn't get a good view of that gentleman. But some point, the man that was dressed in a nice shirt asked the guy in the chair about something. I didn't quite recall what he asked him about, but something along the lines of where this thing was, and he didn't seem like he was going to answer at all. So all of a sudden, the black gentleman picks up what looked like a machete off the table and chopped this man's arm right in half from the elbow to the wrist. He chopped it right in the middle. And the first thing that struck me as odd is, one, there was no blood coming out. And I thought, well, that's awfully strange. And second of all, this man did not even hardly flinch. And I don't know about you, but if I ever had my arm chopped off, I'd be screaming like a 2-year-old.
So it's almost like he was an android.
Sorry?
He must have been like an android or something.
Well, he looked just like a flesh and bone like anybody else. I mean, you could clearly see the flesh, you could clearly see the bone. I went into this man's mind because I thought there was something wrong right away. I didn't know if he went to a state of shock or what was wrong. But what I could sense is that this being, or this man, or whatever he was one thing, focusing on something very far away, like he was in a very powerful state of mind where he seemed to be blocking the pain, but blocking the blood flow to the arm. And I don't know why he was doing it, but he seemed to be able to do it. The next thing I recall is somebody burst through the door. This gentleman was dressed in a nice blue dress shirt, khaki pants. He looked like he had sweated quite a bit, like it was hot and muggy outside. He said something quite quickly about he had found where something is that they were looking for and that they had to go now. And one of the other men that was there questioned him to make sure that the intel he had received was accurate, and he claimed it was, and he told them to gather up the man that was in the chair and to gather some other stuff that they were going to go. The next image I seen was all of them in a boat heading down the river. So I quickly projected myself back to where I was at the tree, and the last thing I recall is projecting over to the three other individuals I mentioned in the first part, the two men that were in the military uniforms and the woman that was there with them. And that's all I recall. I don't know why we were sent there, whether it was to get that man that was being rudely tortured, or if we were there to eliminate that man. And I have a feeling we might have been there to eliminate him, just so that no information could be extracted from him, but I'm not too sure.
Okay. So, do you have any idea why you were sent to eliminate this individual?
I don't know why. So he had information, but from what I understand, it appears that they thought he did, or he actually did have information on. What came to my mind when they were asking him where it was, when they said, "Where is it?" the thing that came to my mind was portal. What were they meant by portal? I don't know. Like, was it a gateway? Was it something, a technology? Was it an object? What was it? I don't know.
Now, Aaron, you've also had, you said you've had a memory of being at an air base, possibly at the Groom Lake Area 51 facility. Why don't you elaborate a little bit about that?
Okay, this is probably one of the first, most, I guess, profound things I've ever seen in my life. The only thing I can recall, first of all, was that there was two boys.
Hello? Are you there?
Are you there?
Yeah, go on.
Hello?
Yeah, I lost you a little bit.
So there was two boys at that facility that I seen. There was a number of other individuals. I was then shown what appeared to be aircraft hangars, a bunch of other buildings. We appeared to have gone into an aircraft hangar, though everything in that image was blocked out for a very good reason. I will perhaps explain later. And I'll show them and stairs. We had then gone to the door, and I was being told by, this is kind of odd, but because as I'm seeing this, I'm being fed information by other people around me that I can't tell who they are, and they're saying that we were being, both me and this little boy were being accused of killing a scientist there. Now, I thought this was kind of odd, but I was also told by another being that this was not true. We never actually did it. We were just being accused of it for whatever purpose, I don't know. In order to prove to us that we actually did this, they injected us with whatever the scientists were working on that would show that we were actually there and had done it, or at least to us anyways. But anyways, we had gone through this door onto this, what looked like a deck, and there was a number of people in military uniforms. I noticed none of them had any insignia on them. You couldn't see no rank, you couldn't see no name, you couldn't see any marking whatsoever. There were also other individuals there who had lab coats. They appeared to have, some of them had clipboards. They were marking stuff down. There were two soldiers to the far side of this deck-looking thing. Each one was standing on each side of there's a box, and one of them was on one side, one was on the other. They first grabbed the other boy and opened the box and threw out what looked like a rotting corpse of about 11 or 12-year-old boy. And I mean rotting, but the fact that it was just becoming disfigured, and it was rotting, and then there was like flies, and it was just the most grossest thing I've ever seen. And they threw it off to the side. They then grabbed the other boy by the legs and lifted him upside down and held him up by his legs. One of the soldiers that was there holding this boy by the legs pulled out a knife, and he took the knife and drove it between the ribs and his flesh of the boy. That boy did not flinch. If you looked at...
Hello? Hello? You there? Aaron?
Yeah?
We
Are you
lost
still there?
you. Yeah, you said
Yep.
the boy did not flinch. Start from there.
Okay, the boy did not flinch. If I looked into that boy's eyes, and he looked like he wasn't there. He looked like he was at a faraway place. The best way to describe his look was the same look you've seen on POWs from World War II. That some of them had that very sunken in, far away look, and that's the exact same look that boy had in his face.
Okay.
That soldier then pulled that knife out and drove it on the opposite side between his flesh and his ribs again, and again that boy didn't flinch.
Okay, well let's back up here. First, you said that this boy actually did he actually have rotting flesh? Or was this...
No, the boy they pulled out of the box. There's a box that was there, that one soldier was on one side of the box, there's a soldier on the other side. They opened the lid and they pulled out a corpse of a rotting boy that was an older boy than what we were. We were about maybe 7 or 8 years old. The boy they pulled out of that box looked more like 11 or 12.
So they actually pulled out two bodies. One alive, one was dead.
No. We were both standing there.
Okay.
And there was a number of other soldiers there, but two soldiers, one on either side of each box. Oh, sorry, there was a box there. One soldier on one side and there was a soldier on the other side of the box. They opened the lid, and out of that box they pulled a dead boy out of there. And then they grabbed the other boy that was with me and grabbed him and held him up by the legs. He's still alive, but he's looking like he's either severely tortured or something's happened to him. He doesn't look like he's vibrant or happy or alive or anything. He's just like he's very emaciated. He doesn't look like he's very well. And they, like I said, drove a knife on either side of him. Whether they're trying to get a reaction, I don't know. And I remember thinking at this point, now, I don't see my lips move, so I don't know how I was able to convey these thoughts, whether it's telepathically or what was going on, I'm not sure. But I said there was no point in doing that to him because they weren't going to get nothing out of him anyways. So then the soldier pulled the knife out, turned the blade on edge, and jabbed it right into his chest. The next thing I then see is I'm with an older man who has a brush cut style haircut, and he has a military uniform. We are standing on what appears to be like an airstrip or a tarmac, and we are looking at the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen. And it's in a desert scenario. There's no shrubbery growth, and there appears to be like hills in the near distance, like not too far away. And and I looked up at the soldier at that point, and I remember thinking, why didn't you kill me? Like, why wasn't I killed as well if I was supposedly accused, of killing the scientists and whatnot? And he looked down at me and he said, we have very special plans for your future. Then I came back too.
Well, that almost sounds like they were trying to traumatize you in such a way for your own programming.
Yeah, I still believe that it's possibly a part of the twinning program. It's when what they do is the program that's in you, it is twinned within your own self, so your whole program within you is doubled up. So it's got two copies in your mind. And then your whole program is then twinned into another person as well, so if something goes wrong, I guess they have multiple copies. Apparently the program is very important, that's why they do it.
I guess they like to make backups.
I'm not too sure. There could be. This is where I wonder if I was not switched. Because why I say that is because that boy looked a lot like my father does now, but I did not look nothing like I thought I looked. Put you that way. And that boy, whether he broke underneath the programming, which is plausible. If they're very heavy-handed, they pushed him too far, and he mentally he couldn't take it anymore, and that was it. And then at that point, they were maybe stuck in a bind, and maybe used me to take on his programming as well. So I'm not too sure. It's very complicated. I just get like the fragments of memories here and there. I don't know how it all works. So.
All right. Now you said that you remember some kind of training program for kids and a general haze. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, like high-risk extraction or something? Is that what you've been involved with?
I assume that's what it was, but I know it was a very odd thing that I seen. What I recall is there was it was myself, another boy, a few other kids, actually quite a large number of kids, and some of them were in red, like dressed in like a red uniform, and others were dressed in like a more of a military style uniform. And I remember clearly, distinctly telling one of the other boys that the military regiment that was being taken place there was based upon British military structure. There was what they called a non-commissioned officer officers, and then there was commissioned officers. Now, I don't understand what the point of that was or what it was all meant, but that's what I had told the boy that I was showing around. I then seen a whole bunch of images flash through my head of where what appeared to be like helicopters. It appeared to be things that were on sea, like maybe people are stranded in the sea. I'm not too sure. I didn't see like a group of soldiers that were in a downed helicopter, and they seemed to be almost like in a war zone of sorts. They seemed what I'm assuming I thought was the enemy approaching them, so I don't know for sure. As they got closer, one of the soldiers that was at the crash site, he seemed to recognize the individual that was approaching them, or the group of soldiers that was approaching them, and he yelled out General Hayes, and all I seen was an image of an Asian man with a round face, maybe in his mid to late 40s, and that's all I recall.
Okay. So do you think...
I don't know what that was all about.
Yeah, so do you think he might be like some kind of head of this project? Or maybe who knows?
Possible, yes.
Maybe he's
possible,
mind controlled too. You know, he could have like multiples and
yeah, that's very
double life.
true. Like you mentioned to me, it might have been assassin programming or part of it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know for certain what it was.
Okay. Well, now I guess do you remember killing any people? Well, I guess you had a lot of memories of that, or why don't you?
Yes, I recall. Wasn't in uniform, no. They're just strictly, in regular plain clothes. Stuff happened, and individuals.
Yeah.
Died.
My friend, he actually remote viewed you, and he saw you wearing a black outfit, and that you were like swimming past security somewhere. And he said he remembers you running on walls. I don't know, maybe it's like a form of levitation. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
I can't say that it does at the moment. I don't recall anything like that yet, but there may be some instances in Eastern Europe, but I can't be for certain what happened over there.
Okay.
There may be some other instances in a few other places, but very foggy, if anything. I don't recall being in a black suit at all, but you never know. There's so many things that are...
What kind of clothing? What kind of clothing do you normally wear when you're sent on these missions? Is it like a military uniform? Or?
I am with. Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because if I am with the individuals I mentioned that would appear that were when we were in Africa, the lady and the two other men that were all in military uniform. When I see those two same guys, and I've seen them a couple times, I know all of us were all in military uniform of some sort, whether it's desert camel or some sort of like a jungle camel, or in some sort of a camel of some sort. Though in other instances, when we are in like an urban style, and there's maybe only a couple of us, we're just dressed in plain clothes. Like you couldn't tell the difference from us from anybody else in the street kind of thing.
Okay.
Odd.
Well, also, my friend remote viewed how you actually get to the location of wherever you're going. And he saw you going through some kind of machine where you actually like teleport to the location. Do you have any memories of that? Of how you actually got from point A to point B?
No, I can't say I know, like, at least not in the mission aspects of it. I don't have any recollection of how I get there and back. But, like I said, my memory is very fragmented. I only get glimpses here and there.
Okay.
I haven't come across anything that, I haven't seen any machines, but I have seen something that looks like an energy circle of some sort. I don't know what it is, but
all right.
It's very, very neat looking anyways.
Okay. Well, why don't you talk about the time when you remember that cigar-shaped craft that, I guess, crashed? Is that what happened?
Well, that's what, that was the one that was just recently. I don't understand what that was all about. Maybe a lot of, like, cover memories are placed in there. But it seemed like, yes, it looked like, you're right, a cigar-shaped craft, like, remind me similar to a sub, but in the sky. And
okay,
it was
a
nice,
submarine.
And I could see it streaking through the sky. And it seemed like it crashed not too far away from where I was at. And I thought I could get to it before the American military could. And the reason I said American, because there appeared to be like an American emblem, like a star, in a circle, like very much like the American Air Force emblem put onto it. I had in my mind it was American, I don't know why. But I took off down.
Hello? You're breaking up a little bit.
Doors opening. Oh, you still there?
Yeah, you broke up a little bit. Go on.
Okay. I seen I was driving down that road at night and towards the crash site. There appeared to have been what I thought would look like Hercules aircraft flying over parallel with the road, and it looked like the rear door hatches were open. I was thinking that they were dropping special ops to secure the site. Now, I don't know why I thought that, but I did. And then it gets really hazy at that point. All I heard is the words Deep Space Program, and that was it I came to, and that was all I remember.
Okay. And now I don't know if you have any memories. Do you actually? Because from what I've actually read is that I think it's called U.S. Space Command is what operates the space program, the secret space program. Do you have any memories of that, like being in outer space or flying a TR-3B?
Well, I have one memory of something in space, but I don't trust it enough to say that it was. I don't know if it was actually real or not. Was it my imagination? I can't say for certain. But it seems all I recall is that I'm in some sort of suit, and I come through what looks like a portal. The best way to describe it. But the stupid thing is, the portal seems like it's on the outside of a ship. And I'm thinking, who's dumb enough to put a portal on the outside of a ship? I have to walk on the outer surface of the ship in this goofy-looking suit towards what looks like the door opens, and you get into like a room where you're allowed to take the suit off. I then go through another set of doors. There's a woman in a suit, and she has a clipboard and some other papers in her hand. She says something. She says, "We've been expecting you," and that's all I recall. But I don't, like I said, I don't trust that memory very much because it seems very odd.
Okay. All right. Well, now you also said you had a memory where you were taken to this really, I guess it was an old facility where there was an old computer by today's standards, and it looked like a.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about that?
Okay. Well, that's a bit of an odd one because, again, this one happened in meditation, and I really didn't understand. I was trying to actually force it out because I couldn't understand what it meant. And what it was is I looked like about maybe 3 or 4 years old, and there was a woman behind me at the time, or with me, and she would be a woman that keeps appearing in every time I have these memories of when I'm really young. And she looked like we were together at a facility that had in a room a number of computers, and old computers, like big old monitor, like CRT type style monitors. And I was playing on them for some reason on one of the computers. I got bored from it. I got off that computer. I walked through the doors that were out of the room into a hallway. I took a left. I walked down the hallway till I came to a corner, and then I had to go right. I went to the right. I came to a door. I opened the door, and I looked through. I got through the door, and it took me to the top of a stairwell that went.
Hello? Hello?
Hangar room, like it was huge.
Hold on.
And all
Okay.
I seen was
Hold
like
on.
rows
You
and
said
rows and rows of what looked like computer type things. And there was individuals working on them or taking notes or doing something with them, but I don't recall what they were doing exactly.
Okay, and how old were you?
And that's all I recall. It looked like I was 3 or 4. I was really, really, really young.
Okay. And you have no idea why you might have been there?
None whatsoever. I have no idea why I was there.
I mean, do these memories seem really vivid? I mean, are you sure that they're actually real memories, or could they be dreams?
Oh no, they're extremely vivid. They're so vivid that, most times, I guess if you ever have a dream, like I've just recently been able to actually have the odd one, you see it and you might remember it for a few days, and then it kind of fades away, and you don't really recall it ever again. These memories are so vivid and so clear that it's like once I see them, I never forget them.
Okay, all right. Well, now when you talk about the family, I'm assuming that means what? The Illuminati? Is that because it's?
I guess that's what some people might refer to them as. I don't know why they refer to themselves as a family. I've heard of it, and when I have recollection of some of the weird rituals that they've done, and I've heard the name mentioned there. But the word occult has been mentioned once, so I don't know why or what the group is, but it appears that that's some reason I've been born into that particular faction or group or whatever they are. And they seem to enjoy having a lot of control over individuals that are underneath their name.
And the other thing is that this family or this Illuminati or whoever you're doing these missions and work for, It's not just the United States. It's like I mean, do you feel like you've been loaned out to like the Europeans and really anyone?
It could be anyone and everyone kind of thing. Like, it just doesn't seem to make any rhyme or reason. There's no one particular group. And it's like that one recollection I remember called, like, we were sent in to go extract or kill somebody, and there was Americans out there, and that was just something that we had to eliminate and just keep moving on. So it would seem odd that if we worked for just the Americans alone, that we would eliminate their own guys, for that matter.
Okay.
So it seems like other groups, regardless, work and suit their own needs, I guess.
All right. Well, I guess, would you want to comment on why you think the New Age community shuns research about milabs and super soldiers? Why is it, you know, this kind of topic is just considered taboo still, even if people supposedly are open-minded?
You mean like in regards to the reason, like New Age and I guess the different groups discuss this sort of thing, as in why it's not profitable, you could say, to the human spiritual evolution?
Yeah.
That's sort of what you're referring to? Or?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in your opinion, why isn't it more? I mean, why do people try to avoid talking about it? Do you think there's like a lot of programming going on in the New Age community, or is it just people just need to be open and become more aware? It's just maybe it's just an education process.
Well, becoming more aware is definitely a good thing, but for the most part, the biggest thing I guess we as humans could be concerned about is with the fact that we do create our own reality every day, and to become aware of that and responsible for our own thoughts and actions, that would be our greatest key, you could say, to moving on in our spiritual evolution. So the idea that, we're talking about programming and more of these negative type based things that are done to us and others, it serves humanity as no purpose in their spiritual evolution, because it's just perpetuating an old system that is far worn out, that needs to be kind of thrown off to the side, and we need to learn to move on to bigger and better things. So the idea that ultimately we need to become responsible for our thoughts and actions, and we don't need to participate in this reality anymore, and we have the freedom to move on as we wish.
Okay. Well, do you have any recommendations for other milab victims on how they can recover some of their memories? Like, I guess...
for memory, like for my case, the easiest and the most effective way I found so far is using meditation. And disciplining oneself in meditation, it seems very difficult, especially if you're programmed, because things can be done to you so that you don't want to meditate, or you find meditation very difficult, or so on and so forth. But anybody in general public, whatever the case may be, I find meditation is a great key to opening up very profound states of awareness, and I guess opening your awareness to other realities and other possibilities. So that's a great key to recover memories, as well as just for the general public in progressing in their spiritual understanding and awareness.
Well, when you say meditate, what do you do? Do you just like clear your mind and just wait till you see something, or do you like do any visualizations where you...
Well, I've actually used a lot of programs over the years, but the basic keys that you'll find in all of them is find a focal point. You need something to distract your conscious mind away from reality, so to speak. If you get some focus on whether you go through the steps of, counting backwards and telling yourself to relax, or seeing colors, or whatever you want to use for meditation aids, and then just learning to become aware and stay aware as you drop through the mental states, and you start to drop into deeper levels of awareness, and staying awake, so to speak, so that you can be observant and see what takes place. So it does take a lot of discipline, and it does take a lot of time to develop that. It's not something that will happen overnight or happen in the first few months. It will take possibly a number of years to accomplish.
Okay. Well, one technique that I actually use, or have used to help other people, is that, I bring them down into a really calm, relaxed state of mind, and then I tell them to maybe go down an elevator or stairs or something, and then maybe they'll meet with their guardian angels to protect them, shield them. raise their vibrational frequency to make them invisible. And then what I tell them to do is to visualize a hallway of broken glass walls, and that symbolizes the altar state just being shattered. And I tell them to find a door and just break it apart and walk through it. And if you just meditate with that, because I think I've actually told you, Aaron, to try that out.
Yes, that was some very interesting results.
Yeah, me too. That's actually how I saw myself sitting in the trip chair. So
Okay, yeah.
Okay, now I know you wanted to talk a little bit about what you envision for the future of humanity. First of all, what would you like to see from like restitution for yourself? I mean, are you willing to just say, let's just wipe this slate clean, let's forget about all that happened, let's just move on, or do you want to bring them to court, or what? Or do you just...
Well, no, I guess like everybody else, I struggled with so many different aspects as I became aware. You go through all the emotions of being angry and you want revenge and so on and so forth. But I've come to the conclusion the best thing I can do is forgive them. Even if I don't know who their names are, I don't know who they are, just forgive them and just move on. And, accept them for who they are and realize, we're all here for various reasons. And just learn to, I guess you could say, don't hold anything against anyone, because really you're not doing any good by doing so. So it might sound kind of weird, but I definitely say forgive anybody that, especially anybody who's been in programs, anyone who might have harmed you or hurt you in any which way, forgive them. And extend love to them. Say, look, I hold nothing against anyone who's ever hurt me, has ever done anything bad to me. In fact, send a challenge out to them. Say, instead of using those technologies to hurt humanity, to control humanity, to manipulate humanity, why not use them same technologies for a beneficial purpose, and instead of hurting them, helping humanity, set humanity free, and help humanity expand their spiritual evolution and awareness to new and higher levels, because there's so much more we can explore if we start to put our efforts to a more positive direction.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think we should just go ahead and forgive all these people that have done this, because a lot of them are mind controlled themselves. The handlers and the projects they've been some of them are just programmed to be abusive, and even like people within the Illuminati, they may be living double lives that they may not even know they're engaging in all these rituals. And
you're very right, because I've often thought that those people, especially in the lot higher ranks, I don't know about the very top, what I refer to as the masters, but I could say those in the very high ranks of Illuminati are probably very heavily controlled, more so than most people in programs. When I say heavily controlled, I mean every aspect of their lives, from where they work and what they do to what they personify out into the public scene, is probably very much controlled.
Okay. Well, what vision do you actually have for humanity when you visualize a golden age occur? Because I know we're getting ready to move away from this period of war and control of the masses to a period of peace in the fifth dimension.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting. I don't know how it's going to manifest itself, so to speak, but a number of things seem to come to my mind as we learn to take responsibility for our thoughts and actions and the reality that we create. I think a lot of other beings that are of higher levels will definitely be able to come into contact with us and be able to mentor us and show us and teach us more things. So in an aspect, I think we'll definitely see a lot of that come into the open, but I also see a lot of new inventions and ideas that people already have on this earth that are helpful in helping Earth itself to keep it clean and taken care of. A lot of those ideas will start to come to the forefront of humanity, and it will slowly make the transition. How fast it will be, I'm not too sure, but I imagine within 10 years we could see a whole new world compared to what it is today.
Yeah, I know. I mean, they supposedly even have technology where they have like these nanobots that could totally assemble a house in a matter of hours. I mean, they could take a slum in like the most decrepit city like Detroit, put nanobots out there, and the nanobots would tear all the homes and all these abandoned buildings down and rebuild a crystal city. That's utterly just so beautiful, and that's the kind of reality that we are about to head to. And I mean, if you listen to any of the web bots and some of their predictions, they almost call it like magic. It's almost going to be such a shift in a paradigm of technology that's about to be released that it's like this whole reality that we know now. It's like it'd be as if it's nothing. Okay, it just and no, people don't really most people don't even want to remember it because it's so traumatic. But you know, we're getting ready to go to a new era where it'll be heaven on earth. And so okay, well, is there anything else you would like to add, Aaron?
No, I think we covered definitely quite a few bases this evening, and yeah, you're very right. We're definitely moving into a new age, and it's going to be a great time, and we'll definitely hopefully forget about this one quite quickly. Okay, and I wanted to actually give you a gift. I wanted to gift you one of my IDL4s, my Neos, so that will help you out because I know you do a lot of meditation, and that will really help you get some memories back. So that's on me. It's free. Don't worry about anything. It's just a special thank you. And for anybody else who wants to learn a little bit more about the Neo, just visit my website at www.neologicaltech.com. I have free guided meditations. There's a video on there how to make a unit. You can learn some information about meditation and how it can help you out. And we would like to do like a visualization using the law of attraction. Now, somebody once asked a medicine man the proper way to pray, okay? And what he did to do the so-called rain dance, he went up to the top of a mountain and he closed his eyes. 3 seconds later, he opened them, and that was it. You know, and it wasn't really even a dance. All he did is he did a visualization where he visioned rain occurring. In his mind, he saw the rain coming down. And that is the proper way to pray, and it's the proper way to meditate. In order to visualize the golden age actually occurring in the fifth dimension, you need to visualize it actually happening. So Aaron and I would just like to ask you to just join us in briefly, and just close your eyes, and just visualize what the golden age would mean to you. I know for me, I like to see a world where there's no poverty, but more importantly, how about a world where we don't even need to use money? How about that? Where everybody has so much abundance. We have free energy technologies. We have anti-gravity machines. We have flying cars, just like in the Jetsons. That was one of my favorite cartoons when I was a kid. And we should be living in a world like that. Why not? Let's manifest it. And a world where instead of the government spending all this money on military applications and all these wars, how about the government spend time to, say, help its people? So let's visualize a government that actually assists its own people. Let's see the end of oppressive governments, and let's see peace coming to the planet, and let's also see an end to this atrocious milabs and monarch program. Let's see that all that stuff being blown out into the public light. Just go ahead and see it going on the TVs and the national press. All of a sudden, it's like, we're not just talking about just people being drugged in a hospital and being electroshocked. No, we want to see everything come out, all the way down to the reptilians and the Dracos and all that stuff, and the underground bases, and all that's going to go on television. And the world is going to be utterly shocked. You just see the shock in the people's minds. People don't even want to believe it. It's so shocking. And that's the world that we're about to head to when all this stuff blows the lid out. Okay, and you can just continue going there. So I guess we're going to go ahead and conclude. So thank you, everyone. And yeah, no worries. Thanks, James.
Okay, well, if there's anything else.
No worries. Thanks, James, for having me. It's been interesting. I don't know what's going to come about this, but hopefully it helps, like I said, make more people aware and awake, and hopefully it helps people that are in the program as well, that they can start to come out. Maybe even people who are actually, like the programmers, the handlers, and so on. Okay. Well, you have a good night. I think that's right on. Thank you. You have a good night too, and keep in contact, and we can see what happens. Yeah. I'm sure it's gonna be interesting.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Yeah. All right, take care, James. Bye-bye.
Okay, the video's done, and I'm going to turn the audio off.